you ever watched your own heart quicken at the prospect of loss? Felt that tightening in your chest when you imagine failing those you love or see a threat looming on the horizon, and wondered how such a small spark of fear could ignite a conflagration of fury that consumes you from within? Yoda once intoned, "Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering." At first, it seems a simple incantation, wisdom wrapped in rhyme. But beneath those words lies a profound psychological blueprint. Fear is not merely an emotion to be endured. It is the seed of a chain reaction that, unchecked, transforms even the noblest soul into a vessel of destructive rage. Consider the anatomy of fear, an evolutionary mechanism designed to protect us from harm, triggering a surge of adrenaline, sharpening our senses, priming our muscles for flight or fight. In its transient form, fear is functional, but when we cling to it, when we ruminate on every what if, every imagined slight, fear mutates into a restless specter. It whispers of conspiracies in every glance, magnifies every unintended insult into a declaration of enmity. That whisper grows into anger, the mind's attempt to reclaim control, to strike out against the nebulous threat. When you lash out at a colleague who questioned your strategy, or at a friend who failed to defend your honor, that is anger's first eruption. But anger alone is ephemeral. It flares, it darkens your vision, and then it subsides, unless you feed it. Anger, roused by fear, begins to hunt targets. You cultivate grudges, replay grievances, sharpen your memory for every slight. Slowly, anger hardens into hate, a cold, systematic appraisal of another's worthlessness. Hate is not mere emotion. It is a decision, a categorical judgment that this person, this institution, this idea deserves destruction. In the grip of hate, empathy dies. The hated becomes an abstraction, a symbol of all that disturbed your fragile peace. And with empathy gone, you unleash harm without remorse. Yet even that cruelty cannot sate the void. It only deepens the suffering. For your enemy, certainly, but also for you. Because when you sever the bonds of compassion, you sever your own capacity for connection. You trade resilience for relentless torment, a cycle that feeds upon itself. Yoda's axiom warns us that suffering is the inevitable terminus of this dark journey, but it also reveals the silver thread of possibility. If fear is the first step, then courage, the willingness to confront fear without denial, is the remedy. To break the chain, you must transform fear into curiosity. When anxiety about a rival's motives arises, rather than retreat into paranoia, ask, what truths lie beneath this fear? Listen to your body's signals, then interrogate them with calm reason. Next comes anger. Instead of unleashing it, channel its energy into creative action. If betrayal stings, let the sting motivate you to build stronger alliances, to refine your own integrity, so that you need not fear betrayal again. When hatred takes root, uproot it with compassion, the conscious choice to see your adversary as a fellow sufferer. Empathy does not excuse their wrongdoing, but it dissolves the abstraction that makes cruelty easy. Finally, suffering itself can become a teacher. By acknowledging your own wounds, you learn resilience and deepen your capacity for wisdom. In the end, Yoda's warning is not a fatalistic prophecy, but a call to mastery of the inner world. Fear need not destroy you. It can awaken you. Anger need not consume you. It can propel you. Hate need not define you. It can remind you of the value of empathy. And suffering, while inevitable, can become the crucible in which your greatest growth is forged. As Yoda counseled Jedi across generations, so must you counsel your own mind. Face fear. Transmute anger. Replace hate with understanding, and let suffering guide you to compassion. That is the path not to the dark side, but to true power over yourself, and the freedom to live unshackled by the cycle of pain. In the silent moments after Yoda's warning, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. The true work begins. You must first become an observer of your own mind, a silent witness to the stirrings within. When fear flickers in your chest at the thought of losing a hard-won contract or seeing your reputation questioned, pause and note it without judgment. Here is fear, you tell yourself, but I am not fear. This simple act of detachment, echoing the Stoic practice of apatheia, creates the space needed for choice. Once you've named the shadow, you can apply the first antidote, curiosity. Ask yourself, what am I truly afraid of? Is it being exposed as incompetent, the sting of humiliation, or loss of control? By drilling down to the core, you unmask fear's disguise and rob it of automatic power. Next, you convert that raw energy into deliberate action. If your fear stems from a looming negotiation, channel its tension into preparation. Study the market data, anticipate counter-arguments, refine your pitch. In that transformation, fear becomes focus rather than paralysis. When anger inevitably rises, sharpened by your newfound self-awareness, apply the ancient discipline of cognitive reappraisal. Instead of reacting to the insult of a rival's slight, reinterpret it as information. He questioned my strategy. Perhaps he worries I'll outperform him. This reinterpretation doesn't excuse the slight, but it shifts you from victim to strategist. You still feel the heat of anger, but now you wield it, directing it toward solutions. You tighten your defenses, you reinforce your value proposition. You demonstrate competence rather than brood over grievance. As for hate, the most treacherous of the four, practice radical empathy on yourself first. Recall Yoda's counsel. Hate is born of fear, and fear is born of self-perceived vulnerability. Acknowledge the part of you that felt threatened, unloved, or unworthy. In that shadow lies the seed of compassion. You realize you hate because you once feared being hated. Use that insight to break the mirror. Instead of projecting loathing outward, you reclaim that energy to strengthen your self-worth. You might journal this encounter. I felt threatened by his criticism. That threatened my sense of competence. I choose to reaffirm my abilities through action. By reclaiming your power, you dissolve the hatred before it ossifies. Finally, when suffering emerges, as it inevitably will once you've confronted these depths, embrace it as your greatest teacher. The philosopher Nietzsche said, "To live is to suffer. To survive is to find meaning in the suffering." In the aftermath of a crushing defeat or a betrayed trust, resist the urge to numb the pain with distractions or revenge. Instead, sit with it. Let the ache of loss remind you of what truly matters: honor, achievement, integrity. Like a blacksmith's hammer forging steel, each blow of suffering strengthens your resolve. Transform that resilience into a mission. Perhaps mentoring a young colleague so he avoids your mistakes, or crafting a strategy so elegant that competition cannot touch it. On the psychological front, cultivate a daily practice of mindfulness under fire. Set aside 10 minutes each morning to visualize the challenges you'll face: a demanding client, a critical board meeting, a rival's bold move. In your mind's eye, feel the fear, let it swell, then consciously reframe it as readiness. Feel the anger bubbling at potential slights, then imagine yourself channeling it into unwavering focus. Feel the specter of hate emerging, then dissolve it with empathy for the human frailty that spawns it. This mental rehearsal creates neural pathways that prime you for mastery rather than victimhood. To anchor these principles in your life, establish rituals that remind you of your commitment. Perhaps at the end of each week, you review every moment you felt defeated by fear, every instance you nearly lashed out in anger, every whisper of hatred that beckoned you toward cruelty. Record these in a ledger, no more than a few lines. Then write beside each the lesson learned and the action you'll take next time. Over months, you'll see patterns emerge, and your ledger becomes a map of your psychological evolution. Throughout your journey, lean on the example of other great men who faced their own shadow. Consider the Stoic emperor, Marcus Aurelius, who wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He faced betrayal, plague, and civil war, yet he transformed his suffering into compassionate leadership. Or recall the General Napoleon Bonaparte, who, despite monumental ambition and ruthless tactics, studied his defeats as rigorously as his victories. Each loss a lesson in overreach or miscalculated pride. In their struggles, you find echoes of your own, and in their reflections, you glimpse your potential for mastery. As your final stratagem, remember that mastery over these emotions is not a one-time victory, but a lifelong campaign. Each new challenge will resurrect fear's whisper, anger's sting, hate's cold grip, and suffering's ache. Yet with every cycle, your capacity to intercept the chain grows stronger. Before long, you will move through the world not as a puppet of your emotions, but as their adept conductor, directing their power with the precision of a Jedi Master. Only with Yoda's wisdom and your own hard-won resilience as your guide. In that profound transformation, you not only avoid the dark side, you become the embodiment of balanced strength, wielding emotion not as a burden, but as a sovereign ally in the relentless pursuit of your highest purpose.